It was supposed to be over. The funeral, the grief, the paperwork. After losing her mother 3 months ago, Maya Preston thought she'd finally reached the acceptance stage of her loss, until a simple phone call shattered everything she thought she knew about her mother's final wishes. "I'm sorry, Ms. Preston, but we've received another document from your mother's financial advisor. It appears to be a more recent will, dated just 6 weeks before her passing." "That's impossible. I helped her prepare her will 2 years ago. She never mentioned updating it." "This will substantially change the distribution of assets, and I need to inform you that you've been removed as a beneficiary entirely." In an instant, Maya's world turned upside down. Not just because of the inheritance, but because of what it suggested. That in her final days, her mother had made a decision that seemed impossible to reconcile with the woman Maya had known her entire life. This is the story of Maya and Daniel Preston, siblings bound by blood, but divided by a 7-page document that raised an impossible question. Was this truly their mother's final wish, or was something more sinister at play? Virginia Preston had always been meticulous about her affairs. A retired accountant and widow of 15 years, she prided herself on organization and clarity, especially when it came to her estate planning. "Mom made it very clear how she wanted things handled," Maya explains, sitting in her mother's kitchen, surrounded by cardboard boxes. "Equal splits between Daniel and me, with specific keepsakes for each of us. The house would be sold, and the proceeds divided. It was all so straightforward." "I thought so too," Daniel says, his voice tight with emotion, "until Mrs. Winters showed me the updated will." Diane Winters had entered Virginia's life 8 months before her passing. What started as twice-weekly caregiving sessions quickly evolved into daily visits after Virginia suffered a minor stroke. "My brother found her," Maya explains, a hint of resentment in her tone. "He lives 3 states away, so he wanted someone local checking in on Mom. I was busy with my own family and work. I thought it was a good idea at the time." Daniel's voice softens. "Mrs. Winters was a godsend. Mom needed someone, and I couldn't be there. Maya was overwhelmed with her kids' college applications and her promotion. We all agreed Mom needed more support. But according to Maya, things changed subtly after Mrs. Winters arrived. Mom stopped calling as much. When I'd visit, Mrs. Winters was always there, hovering. And then there was that financial advisor she introduced, Mr. Barnett. I only met him once, but something felt off. In the months following her stroke, Virginia began changing her routines. Weekly bridge club, cancelled. Sunday dinners with Maya's family, increasingly rare. Even her lifelong church attendance dwindled. Mrs. Winters said outings tired Mom out too much, Maya recalls. But when I'd suggest coming over instead, there was always some reason why it wasn't a good time. The most troubling change came 3 months before Virginia's passing. Mum called me, upset about some paperwork Mrs. Winters wanted her to sign. Something about her investments. I told her not to sign anything until I could look at it. The next day, Mrs. Winters called saying Mom was confused and not to worry about it. 2 weeks later, Virginia's phone number changed. When Maya questioned it, her mother claimed it was to reduce telemarketing calls. Looking back, the signs were all there, Maya says, voice breaking. I just didn't want to see them. The new will was signed 6 weeks before Virginia's death. Unlike the previous document that split assets evenly between her children, this one left everything to Daniel. The house, investments, family heirlooms. Everything. Maya was left with nothing but questions. I confronted Daniel immediately, Maya says. He seemed just as shocked as I was. Daniel's perspective differs. I was surprised, yes, but not entirely. Mom and Maya had been growing apart. There were arguments about Maya's husband's business loan, about how often Maya visited. Mom felt neglected. A divide quickly formed between the siblings. Maya began to suspect Daniel had orchestrated the changes with Mrs. Winters' help. He introduced her to Mom. They spoke regularly, and he stood to gain everything. How convenient. Daniel shakes his head. That's absurd. I loved Mom. I would never manipulate her. Just because I accepted the help of a caregiver doesn't make me some mastermind. As the weeks passed, Maya's grief transformed into determination. She contacted Patricia Goldman, an elder law attorney specializing in contested wills. When we see dramatic changes to estate plans late in life, especially when there's been a health crisis and new influential people in the picture, there's cause for concern, Goldman explains. The legal term is undue influence, when someone exploits a position of power over a vulnerable person to obtain an improper favor, such as a change in their will. According to Goldman, several red flags were present in Eleanor's case: isolation from family, a sudden change in estate plans, cognitive vulnerability after a stroke, and the rapid integration of new advisors. The courts look at whether the change in the will reflects the deceased's authentic wishes, or whether they were manipulated. We examine if they understood what they were signing and if they were pressured or misled. Maya began investigating Mrs. Winters, discovering she had worked with several other elderly clients, whose families later raised concerns about financial matters. Mr. Barnett, the financial advisor, had a spotless professional record, but had worked with Mrs. Winters on 3 previous occasions. It didn't prove anything, Maya admits, but it suggested a pattern. Daniel maintained his innocence, insisting he knew nothing of the will change until after their mother's death. Why would I orchestrate something like this? I was going to share everything with Maya anyway. This whole legal battle is just draining what would have been our inheritance. Maya found herself studying her mother's medical records, bank statements, phone logs, anything that might illuminate Virginia's state of mind in those final months. There were withdrawals I couldn't explain, phone calls to numbers I didn't recognize, and her doctor's notes mentioned periods of confusion after her stroke that Mrs. Winters never disclosed to me. The most troubling discovery came from Virginia's neighbor of 20 years, who reported seeing Virginia in tears on her porch after a visit from Mrs. Winters and Mr. Barnett. Mrs. Chen said Mom seemed disoriented, kept saying she'd made a terrible mistake but couldn't fix it. When Mrs. Chen offered to call me, Mom got frightened and said no, that it would only make things worse. As the legal process began, Maya and Daniel's relationship deteriorated further. Family gatherings became battlegrounds of tense silence or pointed accusations. Daniel's children stopped speaking to Maya. Maya's husband wanted to drop the case entirely. He kept saying, "Is any amount of money worth destroying your family?" Maya recalls. But it wasn't about the money. It was about honoring Mom's actual intentions, about ensuring her voice wasn't silenced when she needed us most. 4 months into the legal proceedings, when Maya feared they might never uncover the truth, a breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Virginia's iPad, which Daniel had given to his teenage son, contained a voice memo recorded 3 weeks before her death. "I don't know what to do." Virginia's voice wavers in the recording. "They're saying Maya doesn't care about me, that she just wants my money. They made me sign papers. I'm afraid to call Maya. They check my phone. If Daniel knew what they were doing." The recording ends abruptly. It's unclear whether Virginia understood she was recording herself or if it was accidental. But the implications were unmistakable. It was devastating to hear Mom's voice like that. Frightened, confused, Daniel says, his own voice thick with emotion. "I had no idea. Mrs. Winters told me Mom was doing well, just tired, that she and Maya were having normal mother-daughter disagreements. I believed her." The voice memo became central to the case. Goldman explains, "A recording like this doesn't automatically invalidate a will, but it creates compelling evidence of undue influence and possibly fraud. It suggests Virginia was being manipulated and wasn't signing documents of her own free will. Further investigation revealed that Mrs. Winters had indeed isolated Virginia, screening her calls and monitoring her communications. Bank records showed that beyond the will changes, Mrs. Winters had convinced Virginia to add her name to a checking account, from which she had withdrawn nearly $42,000 in the months before Virginia's death. The pieces started falling into place, Maya says. Mrs. Winters and Mr. Barnett had orchestrated everything. They needed Daniel and me at odds with each other, so we wouldn't compare notes or work together. They preyed on family tensions that already existed and amplified them. Daniel's perspective shifted dramatically. I felt such guilt. I brought this woman into our lives. I thought I was helping Mum, but I made her vulnerable to predators. 6 months after discovering the second will, the probate court invalidated it, reverting to Virginia's original estate plan. Mrs. Winters and Mr. Barnett came under investigation for elder financial abuse, with similar cases from other families coming to light. But the victory felt hollow. We won the case, but we lost so much time, Maya reflects. Mum spent her final months in fear and confusion instead of peace. And Daniel and I, we said terrible things to each other, things that can't be unsaid. Daniel nods slowly. We fell right into their trap. They counted on us turning against each other instead of questioning them. And we did exactly that. The siblings sit in Virginia's kitchen, now empty of the boxes that once filled it. The house will be sold, as Virginia originally wanted. Her assets will be divided equally, but the emotional wounds remain raw. I don't know if Daniel and I will ever get back what we had, Maya admits. But we're trying. We owe it to Mom to at least try. Daniel reaches across the table, hesitantly placing his hand over his sister's. Mom's worst fear was that money would come between us. And in the end, that's exactly what happened. Not because of her decisions, but because we let ourselves be manipulated. Their story is unfortunately not unique. Elder financial abuse has become increasingly common, with estimated annual losses exceeding $36 billion. As our population ages, vulnerable seniors become targets for sophisticated schemes that often involve isolating them from protective family members. Barbara Rothstein, a forensic accountant specializing in elder fraud, offers advice for families. Pay attention to sudden changes in behavior or access. New advisors, caregivers suddenly becoming indispensable, changes to phone numbers or email addresses, reduced communication. These are warning signs. Rothstein suggests several protective measures. Regular family meetings about financial matters, transparent documentation of all caregiving arrangements, and redundant oversight of financial decisions. The best protection is openness, she explains. When multiple family members are informed and involved, it creates accountability that deters potential abusers. For those with aging parents, Rothstein recommends facilitating difficult conversations early. Ask your parents about their wishes while they're still in good health. Document everything properly. Consider setting up revocable trusts with co-trustees, creating systems where changes require multiple approvals. Most importantly, she urges families to stay connected. Isolation is the fraudster's greatest tool. Regular, meaningful contact with aging parents isn't just about emotional support, it's about protection. Maya and Daniel have incorporated these lessons into their healing process. They've established a monthly financial review with their own children, creating transparency that they hope will prevent future conflicts. We learned the hard way that silence and assumptions destroy families, Maya says. Mom would have wanted us to use this experience to protect others. Daniel adds, if sharing our story prevents even one family from going through what we did, then something good will have come from this tragedy. As the sun sets outside Virginia's kitchen window, Maya and Daniel sit with their grief, their regrets, and their tentative steps toward reconciliation. The house that once witnessed their childhood joys and adult divisions will soon belong to someone else. But the lessons it has taught them remain. Mum always said that family was the only thing that truly mattered in the end, Maya says softly, her eyes falling on a framed note in Virginia's handwriting. Promise me, no matter what happens, you two will stick together. I think she'd be proud that we finally remembered that, even if we took the hardest possible route to get there. The legal battle over Virginia Preston's estate lasted 6 months, cost nearly $80,000 in attorney fees, and caused immeasurable emotional damage. But it also revealed a truth that no will could ever dictate, that the real inheritance worth fighting for wasn't stored in bank accounts or family heirlooms, but in the bonds between those left behind. A will can distribute your possessions, Daniel reflects, but only your loved ones can preserve your legacy. To protect your family from similar situations, consider these essential steps. First, create a transparent estate plan with regular family discussions so everyone understands your wishes. Second, establish a power of attorney that names multiple trusted representatives who must act jointly. Third, schedule regular family financial reviews where key decisions are shared openly. Fourth, thoroughly vet any new financial advisors or caregivers, preferably with multiple family members involved. And finally, maintain consistent communication with aging family members. Isolation is often the first step in financial exploitation. The greatest protection against elder fraud isn't legal documents. It's family connection, maintained through regular, meaningful contact that no predator can penetrate. Thank you for watching this Goldprint story. If you found it helpful, please subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share your own experiences in the comments below. Remember, your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear.